Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. As she mentioned, I am all about health. That is my passion. I do segments for ABC Cake TV, if any of you have seen me there. When COVID struck, before COVID struck, we always did everything in the studio live. But when COVID struck, then I had to start filming at home, which had some benefits for me because I could do some more broad things. So one of the things that I did when I was at home and filming is I have twin granddaughters, 4-year-old twin granddaughters, and so I involved them in one of my segments. And so we're just at home in my kitchen. That's where we filmed. My husband happened to be home that day. And we had this great segment, and the girls did fantastic. And at the end of the segment, I said to the girls, wave goodbye to our audience. And they did. They were very compliant. And then as soon as the cameras turned off, one of my granddaughters leaned into me as she was looking around the room, and she said, Grandma? Yes, I make them call me Grandma. She said, Grandma, who's the audience? Because she could see there was nobody there. So it made me realize that we don't always understand the things that we can't see, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about now. Because every bite of food you take, there is a reaction. There are little factories inside every single one of your cells, and even though you can't see that happening, there are actually many things taking place. Your body is a very busy place. Your cells are a very busy place. So let me tell you a little story. I have always loved health and nutrition. I got my 4-year degree of nursing from Wichita State University, and I worked in the medical intensive care for about 12 years. But I ended up leaving there for some more lucrative business opportunities. But the health arena just kept pulling me back and pulling me back and pulling me back. So what I did was went back to school, and I got my national certification for massage therapy and started a little medical massage practice in my home part-time. So that still kept my fingers in the medical component of people and staying connected to people and helping people. So oftentimes, as does with these clients, the subject of health arises, right? Because everybody has a malady and they have things that are wrong. We end up inevitably talking about health, and even though I have clients with respiratory problems, cardiac problems, just different types of organ dysfunction, we always get on the topic of food. Now, they know how I eat, they know how I sleep, I only drink water, I am an avid exerciser 5 or 6 days a week, and they think it's funny to call me crazy. They think I'm the crazy one. However, these people are suffering a lot from the ailments that they have, and we get around to the topic of food, and they all say, yeah, I know I should make these changes, and some of them suffer from obesity and make it hard to get around. But they end up saying, I'm just here to have fun, and at this stage of the game, I want to enjoy my life. I should be enjoying my life. I don't want to have to suffer. And they like going out to lunch with their friends and ordering French fries. And you know what I say to these people whenever they're complaining to me about having to lose weight but not wanting to suffer? I say nothing. Why do I say nothing? Because you can't push a rope. And until people are ready, they are not going to make change. And typically, for humans, they do not make change unless it's crisis mode. So all I know is our definition of fun is different. They have a definition of fun for them. For me, here's my definition of fun. I don't want to be on diabetes medication. Every year for my birthday, I go to Pikes Peak. Is anybody familiar with Pikes Peak in Colorado? I climb that 14,000-foot mountain. It's 13 miles uphill. It takes about 8 hours. We train all year for it. That's my idea of fun. I also go to bed early so I can get up early and feel good and exercise. I eat so that I don't have cravings and regrets after. So that's just all I have concluded, and I don't preach to people. If they want to know, I'm happy to tell them. So you might wonder, how did these people get in these situations where 70% of our population is overweight or obese? Did you know that statistic? It's alarming and growing. So I'm going to tell you how this happened, and it starts out with a love story about moi. How many of you remember the Marlboro Man from the 70s? You remember him? I was just a little girl. I was born in 63. I was just a little girl, but I remember seeing him and go, that's the man I want to marry. He doesn't know me yet, but that hat, that handkerchief, that vest, that horse, that looks like a husband to me. So I fell in love with the Marlboro Man. Of course, it did end in tragedy. That did not last long because do you also remember when Big Tobacco, they took away the privilege for them to advertise? Do you remember they used to be on TV, commercials, billboards, all that? People were dropping like flies from lung cancer, right? They had to stop advertising. The tobacco industry is very smart. So does anybody know what they did next? They went out and bought big food. They bought Hershey's, General Mills, Nabisco, and they went in and applied the same addiction business model in the food industry as they had in the tobacco industry. They hired engineers to come in and chemically produce these products that they call food to the highest bliss point, meaning salt, oil, sugar. They added to the highest formulation where it was still palatable, but not too much, knowing that it would addict your brains. They did it without your knowledge and without your permission. So that was in the 70s, around there, and we were hooked before we realized it. Also, what happened at that time in the early 80s is the introduction of high fructose corn syrup. And guess what happened in the early 80s? Our obesity rate in America skyrocketed. We have two areas in the obesity category that are the fastest growing. We have gone from obese to extreme obese. We didn't used to have extreme obese in our society. We do now, and childhood obesity is another area that is skyrocketing. So you might wonder, what is processed food? Does anybody know what a processed food product is? Maybe you already know. These are chemically engineered products made in industrialized factories. They are examples of Snickers bars, Cheetos, Oreo cookies, Twinkies. Twinkies do not grow on trees. They never will. These are products that are shrink wrapped. They have long shelf life. They have an ingredient list, 20 long. Anything more than 6 ingredients is usually considered a processed food, and they have ingredients that you could not pronounce, you could not define, and you could not use it in a sentence. Is that fair? I mean, have you ever noticed the food labels on some of these things? The ingredients are a mile long. And the saddest thing that is a major processed food is children's cereal. 50% sugar. Some of that children's cereal is terrible. So on the good note, what are some ideas of single ingredient foods or non-processed food? We call these single ingredient foods because they only have one ingredient. They don't have labels. You can see for yourself an orange is an orange. You don't need a label to tell you what it is. These are foods that rot after a couple weeks. They're not going to be shelf stable for years upon end. So you've got fruits, you've got vegetables, you've got eggs, you've got protein, legumes, grains. Does that make sense? The difference between the two? So you might wonder why the fuss about it. So I'm going to pick on sugar because it is the most addictive drug we have in America. It is toxic to the body. The body has to do a lot of processing in order for you to tolerate the sugar. So sugar, once it touches the tongue, it reaches the brain in less than a second, a fraction of the second. That's how fast sugar reaches the brain, whereas cocaine, it may take 10 minutes for cocaine to reach the brain. What we know is all of those addictive components in our life are processed here in the center brain. Sex, drugs, alcohol, gambling, shopping, all those things are processed here in the center brain. And unfortunately, you might be sitting at your desk one afternoon minding your own beeswax, and you might see a commercial, or you might see somebody eating a churro, or you might smell something that cues and triggers you, and the addicted part of your brain says, okay, I've just been woken up, we've got to get it, and we've got to get it now. That's the job of the addiction, to make sure your needs are satisfied immediately and there's no suffering. The addiction doesn't have the capability of consequences. So what we rely on for that is our frontal lobe, right here between the eyeballs. That's your consequence center, your logic, your braking system. That's the one that says, probably better not. Unfortunately, we have neuroimaging that shows when you have a craving, that blood flow that's just relaxed here just goes whoosh. Oh, sorry, I didn't know that would do that. I won't do that again. So it robs, the center brain will pull that blood flow and feed the addiction. So we have to be very careful to use skills to bring that blood flow back to the frontal lobe. Let me give you an example. If you are someone that's addicted to Starbucks and you're late for work, the line is long, you've been in trouble with your boss, you've got a meeting at 8 o'clock, but it's still, you are going to be late if you stay in this line, but your addiction is saying, what stands between you and happiness is that lady at the pickup window. She's got a cup filled with caffeine, dairy, and sugar, and while you're waiting in line, you can start formulating an excuse to your boss of why you're going to be late. The addiction is that strong of a pull. So why does that matter? Why not just go, tired of the fight, let me just lean into it and do like some of my clients do and just, they're here to have fun and enjoy their life. They don't want to suffer. I'm going to tell you why I'm here in one statement. 1.6 million people die every single year from diet-related disease. I'm going to repeat that. 1.6 million people die every year from diet-related disease. That's more than war, that's more than COVID, and this is happening every year, and I'm guaranteeing you those numbers are even higher now. I think the US, I saw this the other day, a statistic, in 2008, I think we spent like 149 billion with a B on obesity problems. We know that food is the #1 cause of preventative disease. These are optional deaths, optional, things that can just be changed with your fork. So why does all this matter? Well, let me tell you a little bit more about what's happening in your body. When you are a high sugar consumer, we know that sugar is a culprit, a causative factor in over 140 diseases. That's how prevalent it is as a problem in society. When you're eating sugar all day, your pancreas is spitting out insulin right and left. That's what it has to do in order to keep you alive. If your insulin didn't control the blood sugar, you would go into a diabetic coma and die. So when that pancreas is working overtime all day long, we know that insulin encourages fat storage. It's end up being stored around these vital organs, and then we get into problems with insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, cardiac problems, diabetes, prediabetes. They're even calling Alzheimer's now diabetes 3. So it is a problem. That's why it's a problem. So we know that not only does a healthy diet affect a healthy body, it also affects our cognitive ability, right? So that is a big bad bummer because we want to be vital. We want to be sharp. We want to be bright. We want to be physically capable. We want to be independent people for as long as we can. That's what a rich, full life looks like, having independence. Would you all agree with that? So the other second biggest thing that I can tell you, and this may be even bigger than the statistic that I told you before, every bite of processed food you consume speeds up cellular aging. Speeds it up, speeds it up, speeds it up. However, on the converse, every bite of whole food, single ingredient foods that you take actually slow down the cellular process of aging and increases cellular repair. So you have got this big bonus going on immediately when you're eating healthy. Have I depressed everybody enough yet? Are you ready to turn these things around to the positive and turn the frowns upside down to smiley faces? So the question becomes, what do I do about it? I wouldn't even know where to start. So I'm a certified food addiction recovery advocate. Here's what I know. We don't make big changes all at once. Have you ever tried that? Has it worked? Does it stick long term? Generally, it does not. So what we tell people is we wait till that voice of wisdom comes on, and then you're ready to do the next right thing. And it doesn't have to be big. It can be small. It can be doable. It can be enjoyable. And then when you're ready, then we do the next right thing. But you don't ever have to go out and make gigantic changes. You can just start with, oh, I'd like to have a healthy breakfast, or I'd like to cut down eating between meals, or I would like to stick to fruit or vegetables between meals. By the way, I'm going to take a right turn here for a minute. Let's talk about fruit and vegetables for a minute, because I was telling you about insulin. The antidote to insulin is fiber. Why? Because fiber helps control blood sugar and stabilize your blood sugar. What are the items that have a highest amount of fiber? Anybody know? Fruits and vegetables, right? So I try to eat a pound of green salad every day, and I know that I'm doing well by myself when I do that. So let's go back to what can I do? Small changes. Decide what's comfortable for you. You might set a goal for yourself today. What's one thing that I can start doing today or tomorrow? Maybe it's increasing my water. Maybe it's getting enough sleep. The biggest tip I have when people ask me, what is the major thing that you do in having a clean, healthy diet? I prepare my food ahead of time. I prep and plan my food. So before I go to bed at night, I already know what my day is going to look like tomorrow. And I have that food prepared and on hand and ready to go. It is by far the number one thing that I always do. If I have clients coming to me and saying, I'm having trouble with binges and cravings and I can't get back on track, I always start with the basics and I say, are you planning and preparing your food? Inevitably, they say, well, no, not exactly. I need to get back on that. But that is a safety net for me at all times. If you let yourself get hungry, you can either grab what's prepared, or if you're not prepared, you're going to be making choices that you will regret later. A handful of M&Ms, if they're close and you're hungry and you don't have anything else, you're going to go for something like that. So that's my number one tip. In addition to that, the studies show us that, you'll be surprised at this, a huge tip is sleep. If you are not well rested, your reserves are down. You are not as sharp as you should be. Your resistance is low. Sleep is important. Water is important. Making sure that you get, your 8 glasses of water a day. When I'm working with people and they're like, it's just so hard to get the 8 glasses of water in, I say, are you drinking energy drinks, coffee, tea, specialty drinks? Well, yeah, you've got time for those. But so what I say is, you drink your 8 glasses of water, and then I don't care what you drink after that. So that's a perspective to put that in. The other thing I tell people is exercise. And when I say exercise, I'm not talking about going out there and killing yourself. I'm just talking about movement. Your body appreciates movement. It was meant to be moving. It wasn't meant to be sedentary, and you feel better. You get endorphins that kick in. You get all kinds of payback whenever you move and exercise. And the other thing is stress reduction. So you might not know, but there's a pathway in the brain of stress reduction. And right next to that pathway, that neurological pathway, lies the craving pathways. When you vibrate the stress pathway, you also vibrate the craving pathways. So we learn what are some ways that we can manage stress other than reaching for a cookie. Do any of you guys have things that you do for stress, to manage stress, before I tell you what my answers are? So here's what I tell people. Text a friend. Catch up with a neighbor. Write in your journal. If you have hobbies to work on, do that. Go outside in nature. It's called nature bathing, and there is oxytocin, all kinds of good things that happen in our body whenever we're outside. And in fact, I'm going to give you one little exercise. I'm not a big breathing exercise person, but I have this one little trick when I'm really stressed and cravings start coming on. If you guys want to do this with me, you can, but it's a simple little trick. You put your hands on each cheek, and 3 times you repeat to yourself, "You're okay, you're okay, you're okay." And it works every time, and it works immediately. Do any of you just feel that little bit of tension? It's just very comforting to someone who's in a stressful situation. Now, you might wonder, it's too late in the game for me. It's too late for me to start. And I am here to tell you, it is never too late to start. You can always decrease your chances of diabetes, cardiac problems, respiratory problems, cancers, dementia. All these things can be turned around or impacted by your diet every single day. Here's another little bonus that we'll kind of wrap up with. That one thing we know about processed food addiction is it's progressive. So where you are now, it will continue to get worse over the years. But we also know that recovery is progressive too. So it's easy to turn that around. One of the big benefits to having a clean diet, to the exercise, the sleep, and things like that, is your baseline mood, if it's right here, it's going to go to right here. There's a bump in your baseline mood. It elevates. So you have the opportunity for serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine. All these feel-good neurotransmitters can fill your soul and have a happier life. It's like somebody opens up the curtains in the living room and the sunshine comes flooding in. You just have a brighter affect. And so you can play off that. I call it a natural antidepressant. And who wouldn't want to have this rich, vital life filled with other things other than focusing on food and harming that aging process as we grow older? Does all of that make sense? Does anybody have any questions for me as we're talking? You have me, so ask me anything that you want. Yes, please.
What challenges have you overcome in getting your family on board with eating the way you do, and when you go to church potlucks or whatever?
I don't think I ever said that I got my family on board. Did I say that? Did anybody hear me say that? So, that large gatherings, is that kind of what how do you handle large gatherings when you're swimming upstream solo? I think about it, I envision it before I go. I try to eat a well-balanced meal. I never go there hungry. And then oftentimes you have to be in a situation where you go, okay, this is a good, better, best situation. I'm going to do the best I can and try to focus on relationships and have the focus not be on the food. I'm there to socialize and get to know new people. I might set a goal of I want to learn 2 new things about 3 different people in the room. So I'm going there with a purpose versus 0 plan at all. It's going to end in disaster. Every time it will end in disaster. So really thinking this through, what is my why of being healthy? What do I want my life to look like? And thinking through the process, really envisioning what you want that to be for yourself. Does that help?
I've heard someone say that you shouldn't have dairy, wheat, or sugar. But I would like to have yogurt and cheese. Not too much cheese, but I would like to have those. Is that in the healthy diet?
I will tell you that I do eat dairy, not a lot, but I do have a little bit of yogurt, like you said. And dairy is very controversial. You can find what you're looking for in the studies. Dr. Google will tell you there's studies for pros and there's studies for cons. Now, in general, as far as wheat and sugar, those are always on the bad list. They're highly, highly processed. The problem is with so much of that is you get this spike in sugar, you get a spike in dopamine. So dopamine is good and we want that, but we want to do things in our life that these feel-good neurotransmitters gently rise and then gently fall versus if you're eating highly processed food, you're going to have a dramatic drive up, a spike in your dopamine. And the problem is with that is there is a dramatic drop afterwards. So it just is not great for our system. And then you're chasing that dopamine desire all day long.
Is there a healthy amount of sugar in your diet, say less than 10%, or do you just cut out sugar altogether?
The healthy percent of sugar in my diet is 0. I eat no sugar unless I'm jonesing for trouble. My husband has, so the question was about our family and getting family on board. My husband is very generous, very supportive of me, so he has a cupboard. That's where all his junk food goes, and I don't go in that cupboard unless I'm looking for trouble. So I just avoid that because for me, I cannot have one bite because one bite means my brain lights up like a Christmas tree. Has anybody ever experienced that? When you have one cookie, you're thinking, how can I get to the next one? I can't get this one down soon enough till I can get to the next one. But sugar, like I said, when it touches your tongue, within a fraction of a second, it is processed in the brain, and your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. The message, the job of the addiction is to tell you when you have sugar, get more, eat it till it's gone, eat it till you're sick. Do not stop until you are completely satiated. There's no braking system when it comes to sugar. Same way with potato chips or things like that. Those highly processed, highly palatable foods. These are hyperactive brain cells in the brain. That's what's happened. That's why when I was talking about these manufacturers, that they went in and purposefully engineered these chemical compounds, and they call it food, for you to be addicted. Not only did they addict your brain, they made it available. They bought up real estate in the grocery store, eye-level marketing, end caps, displays. Cartoons went from 50 on a morning to 500. They made it affordable, and because they're diabolical. So they addicted you without your knowledge and permission, and then they marketed to you so they will steal you of your money. And their job is to make you come back and buy more. And it's working. It's obviously working by the obesity epidemic that we're in. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Yes. As far as processed foods, do you consider boar's heads, turkey, processed?
Well, I understand that's better than just buying the processed lunch meat. If I had to have lunch meat, that's something that I would do, go to the deli counter and have them shave it. And again, it's a situation where I talked about good, better, best. If that's the best that you have available to you for a protein, then we do that versus some type of other very processed food for lunch. It's better than a frozen dinner for me. No. Mm-mm.
So what kind of protein do you eat?
So this is my trick for protein. On the weekends, my loving husband will make a big grill. We, shuffle around between chicken, salmon, beef once in a while, not that off, swordfish. What else do we have? Those are really the main things. Yeah, bison would be great. Yeah, I did try to be vegan for about a year or so, but it was hard to comply with, and my iron was so low that I had to go back to, my doctor said you can either go on iron pills or have some more meat in your diet. Yes, please.
Do you have any suggestions how to break an addiction to sugar?
Okay, so yes, I do. You've got two choices when it comes to breaking the addiction to sugar. You can go cold turkey, like me, or you can stair-step your way off. For me, the stair-stepping did not work. I just had to go cold turkey, and it will be out of your system in 3 to 5 days. Do I still crave it? Sure. Was it like before when I was on it? No. It's much more manageable. And the longer out you get, I've been off sugar for a little over a couple years, much more manageable. I can go no problem to the birthday parties, the family gatherings, things like that. It just doesn't bother me because I don't want to go back to that dark place, because when I start on sugar, I literally cannot stop till I'm sick. It has that strong of a hold on me. Everybody has different levels of addiction. Sugar, I mean, from the time I was a little kid, I loved sugar. My body reacted exactly how it was designed for my body to react. So yeah, 3 to 5 tough days. You can do it. If I could do it, I'm telling you, anybody in the world could do it because I loved it.
We listened to you pre-pandemic when you were here and you were passing out Lakanto products. So do you use that anymore now, or are you on?
I am so glad that you asked me that question. I thought plant-based sweeteners were the answer. What I have had found is that even the plant-based sweetener kept the sugar addiction alive to where I would still succumb to a sugar binge once or twice a month, because that did still keep that part of my brain awake. So I experimented, and this is the way you can do it, guys. You just have to try and see what works for you. For me, I got off the plant-based sweeteners, and it has helped tremendously. So if I want something sweet, I do the fruit, some type of fruit, and it's sweet enough. Your taste buds change, by the way. Even your vegetables become more sweet and appealing. You just naturally want to eat that way. So your body will reset itself. One thing, as you are on sugar, your regulation system, they down-regulate to where you need more and more and more. But as you get off sugar, that your body will reset itself to where a little bit of sweet would be too sweet for you.
What about monk fruit?
Same thing. I don't do any plant-based. I meant to say the reward pathways in the brain. That's what down-regulates whenever you get on sugar. That's why it takes more and more for you to get that same feel-good in the brain, and then as you get off sugar, then that system will reset itself.
What about stevia and honey?
Again, stevia is a plant-based sweetener, and honey will have the same. Your brain does not know the difference between any of these products, honey or sugar or, there's a couple other things out there, but yes, same thing. I don't do any sweets at all. Bananas. Is what I use in recipes now.
I was just going to say, I was using Splenda. It's that yellow packet. And I developed a rash on my leg. And I went cold turkey on Splenda, and the rash went away.
I'm not surprised. I've heard things like that before.
Does the body need some sugar?
No, if fruit is plenty. Is that what you meant? But no, it does not need it. We were never designed as humans to have sugar. The fruits and the vegetables, those single ingredient foods, the things that come out of the earth, off of a tree, an animal, all those things that they look like what they came to this earth, that is what we were designed. We were designed to eat like our ancestors eat.
So what are the effects of cooking on vegetables versus raw, like carrots, spinach? I love to cook spinach, cooked carrots, but not so
Great.
much raw. But
That's great. So again, it's the good, better, best. I would rather you have cooked vegetables and eat them versus go, I'm not going to eat them that way. It's great. I think that's fair. She wanted to know, is it okay to cook the vegetables? Sure. Yeah, I steam carrots in the microwave. You want to know a hot tip on beets? Does anybody like beets? I came upon this new idea to microwave the beets. I peel them, chop them up, put them in the microwave for 8 minutes with a half a cup of water. Test them. They usually need 3 more minutes, but then you've got an easy chopped up beets in the refrigerator to sprinkle on your salads. Beets, yeah, the red and the gold, yeah. So cook away. I'm just glad you're eating vegetables. Love it.
What about caffeine? Are you for?
I don't know caffeine.
So that's a bad effect on your body.
Yeah, it's a stimulant. I understand I'm a zealot. I understand I may be extreme to some people, but I don't drink any caffeine. It is a stimulant, and it does increase your hunger. Did you have something?
Dark chocolate,
Nope.
nuts.
I do eat nuts, yep. Those are single ingredient foods. Chocolate is processed. Unless you're eating the straight cocoa bean off the tree or the bush or whatever it comes. You like chocolate because of the processing that has happened to it.
So, do you eat salad dressing on your salads? Because I was gonna say, salad dressing.
I don't do bottled salad dressing. So I'm going to tell you two different things. If I had to, salad tastes plenty sweet to me, and I enjoy it just without any dressing. I have learned, my taste buds really have changed, so I don't mind that at all. But if I want something on my salad, avocado, salsa, a cottage cheese, a homemade hummus, that's what I do, a couple tablespoons of those for the same amount of calories. You could have a small avocado for the same amount of calories as a couple tablespoons of salad dressing. So balsamic vinegar is my favorite. If you want to write down California balsamic, I ordered that online, and they've got, 20 or 30 flavors of just balsamic, so I might put a tablespoon of balsamic. I love it.
So those stores that you can go into and pour out the different flavors and taste those balsamic vinegars and olive oils, is that
So
comparable to what you're?
I do buy from California balsamic because I already know that it's salt, oil, and sugar-free. So that's important to me.
Can you buy that in town?
No, it's all online. So, big plug for California balsamic. I just know what I'm getting. But you read their ingredients on the labels, and you can maybe find just a plain balsamic here, just fine. Just make sure it's not a bunch of added sugars. Be aware of your labels and look for added sugars. Any other questions, guys? I will be around for a little bit while we have lunch, so if you can think of anything else that you would like to ask me, I am here. And you've been a great audience, and thank you for all of your questions. I'm so glad, and I hope it was helpful to you all. So,
I'll just have to say the salad is delicious.
you know what? This is the same salad that I designed for here. I call it the Smarty Pants salad because every ingredient in here has a healthy component to it. So I'm glad you're here and eating my Smarty Pants salad. So you can follow me on my blog, Food Fitness by Paige. We did just come out with a podcast. The name of our podcast is Real Food Recovery. We're on YouTube, and by next week we will be on all the podcast platforms, and it's all about healing from processed food addiction. So if you go to YouTube today, you will see our first episode is up at Real Food Recovery. If you would hit the subscribe button, we would appreciate it. That helps get our message out, and it will notify you of when our next episode comes out. We'll be doing them weekly. Well, I offer recipes on my Food Fitness by Paige, my blog, so you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I post a new recipe pretty much daily. It's all sugar-free. So if you're on Facebook, you can follow me there.
Catch you on the news.
Or you can catch me on the news.
It must be Kay.
Yes, they've switched me from weekends to weekdays, so
What kind of personal clients do you take on then? What,
anybody. Anybody.
well, who do you think you can do the most good for?
That's a great question. Anybody that feels like they have a problem with food, whether it's food obsession, whether they can't stop once they start, whether it's affecting their daily life, whether it's affecting their relationship, if they would rather be with food than people. Anybody that recognizes that I want to improve in a certain area of my life, that's what we help them through our health coaching. Yeah.
I keep hearing you say we. Are you doing
So-
it with somebody?
The podcast, yes, I do have a partner. She's in Houston. We record over Zoom. She is someone who's lost over 250 pounds and has kept it off. She's beautiful, smart, intelligent, and I'm lucky to be partnering with her. Other than that, my Food Fitness by Paige, that's all me.
Tell me about sodas.
Sodas, don't do it.
None at all.
I don't. I will have a sparkling water, just a plain.
Is that a flavored drink? The sparkling?
I don't do the flavored sweet ones. It's just a bubbly water. But like I said, you get your 8 glasses of water in, and then we can talk.
These sodas that advertise, like zero sugar or whatever,
The chemicals that are in there are just horrific.
aspartame, super low.
I do a little bit of dairy, and so what I say about dairy is, I had mentioned this earlier, that there's statistics both ways on dairy. You can find studies that promote it, you can find studies that say don't eat it. For me, I don't have an effect from it. My partner that I was talking about that does the podcast, she gets inflammation from dairy, so she avoids dairy for now. So you have to do your homework, and oftentimes I say just try it and see if you are at complete peace and you have no reaction, then enjoy it. I've heard one expert say that with her clients, if they say, I love Doritos, I just have a bag, I don't have any bad effects, and I go on throughout my day, I don't even think about it, it doesn't send me any cravings or binge, she says, have your little bag of Doritos and move on then. But if you're having something that's causing a problem in your life, then it's time to stop and reconsider. Does that make sense? Anybody else? You have been a delightful audience. I'll sit down and have my salad here. And if you think of anything else, I will be around for a little bit longer. Thank you guys. Glad to be here with you.